Love isn't measured in square footage. It's measured in presence, in warmth, in effort. And Liam, he was just supposed to be visiting, just passing through. A polite, respectful young man finishing his semester. But somehow he became the only person who saw through the cracks, who noticed the silences, the sighs, the way my hands trembled when I thought no one was looking. I didn't plan to need him. I didn't even realize I did. Until it was too late. And I know what you might be thinking. You're judging me already. But before you do, just listen. Because this isn't a story about lust. It's a story about starvation. About what happens when a person goes too long without being touched, not physically, but emotionally. When you're always the one giving, and no one ever gives back. Sometimes, all it takes is a look, a touch, a sentence said at the right time, or the wrong one. This is the story of the moment that changed everything. It might make you uncomfortable. It might make you question your own lines. But it's real, and I lived it. And by the end, maybe you'll understand how a simple moment of help turned into something I never saw coming. Subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Unfold, where we share the stories that echo in silence and sometimes shatter it. I've been married to Mark for 12 years. 12 quiet, practical, well-managed years. On paper, it looks solid, stable. A nice house in the suburbs, groceries in the fridge, bills paid on time. But love doesn't live on paper. And inside those 12 years, I'd been slowly disappearing. It wasn't always like that. There was a time when he used to pull me in for no reason. Touch the small of my back just because. Kiss me mid-sentence. Ask me how I was and actually wait for the answer. But somewhere between the third promotion and the fourth forgotten anniversary, something shifted. He stopped looking at me like I mattered. And I stopped asking to be seen. The last time he touched me, really touched me, was 8 months ago. A lazy Saturday morning. I reached for him. He didn't reach back. He said he was tired. And I told myself that was enough. That I could live without being wanted. That this was just what marriage became after a while. So I made peace with the silence. Cooked his meals. Folded his shirts. Smiled for the neighbors. Played the role. Even when it hollowed me out. Then Liam came to stay. Mark's son from his first marriage. 22. Polite. Respectful. He called me by my name, not stepmom, just me. And that alone felt strange. He was supposed to be with us for a few weeks, college break. Nothing permanent. He brought his books, his laundry, and this quiet calm I hadn't felt in my home in years. He'd offer to carry the groceries in. Wash his plate. Ask if I'd eaten. Tiny, thoughtful things that felt like nothing. But meant everything. He wasn't trying to win me over. There was no charm or show. He was just kind. And when you've gone long enough without kindness, it feels like sunlight on skin you forgot you had. I didn't notice it at first. The way I started waiting for the sound of his footsteps upstairs. The way I lingered a little longer in the kitchen if I knew he'd pass through. The way his presence made the air feel lighter. And I hated myself for noticing. Because I wasn't supposed to. But there was something about the way he looked at me. Not with desire. Not at first. Just with attention. Warm, easy, open attention. Like I wasn't invisible. Like I was still someone worth seeing. Liam always looked at me with kindness. The kind that felt dangerous, because it made me feel seen. And when you've spent years being wallpaper in your own home, being seen is the most intoxicating thing in the world. It was late afternoon, the kind where the sun starts dipping but the heat still clings to everything. Mark had asked me to find a box of old files he needed from the garage. Said it like it was nothing. Didn't even look up from his laptop when I said I'd get it. The garage was a mess. Stacks of things we hadn't touched in years. I reached for the box, top shelf, of course, thinking I could handle it. I always do. But I lost my balance. Landed hard. My ankle twisted under me, and I felt it. Sharp, sudden pain shooting up my leg. I called out. Not loudly. Just enough. Hoping Mark would hear. He didn't. Or maybe he did and chose to ignore it. Either way, nothing. Not a footstep. Not a "are you okay?" Nothing. I sat there on the cold concrete floor, one hand gripping the shelf, the other cradling my ankle. Tears burned the corners of my eyes, not just from the pain, but from the weight of realizing just how alone I'd become. Then, I heard the door creak open. Liam. He didn't say anything at first. Just looked at me, eyes wide, eyebrows drawn together. And in that moment, I saw something in his face that I hadn't seen in a long time: concern. Not obligation. Not annoyance. Genuine, instinctive concern. He came over quickly, knelt beside me. "I've got you," he said softly. And he did. He slipped one arm around my back, the other under my knees, and lifted me like I weighed nothing. I wanted to protest. I didn't. Because for the first time in forever, someone was helping me without being asked. He carried me inside, carefully, gently, like I was something fragile. Set me down on the couch. Then disappeared for a moment. Came back with an ice pack, a pillow to prop up my foot, and a blanket. Tucked it around me like it was the most natural thing in the world. He didn't ask what happened. He didn't need to. He just sat there beside me for a while, making sure I was okay. It was the way he looked at me. Not with pity, but with a softness that felt like care. And I hadn't been cared for in years. He said, "You should have called me. I would have gotten the box for you." And I wanted to laugh. Because I had forgotten what it even felt like to be looked after. When he stood to leave the room, I wanted to call him back. To ask him to stay. But I didn't. Because I wasn't ready for how much I wanted him there. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because of the pain in my ankle, but because of the warmth I felt. Long after he left the room. The next morning, I told myself it didn't mean anything. That Liam was just being sweet. That he would have done the same for anyone. And maybe he would have. But that didn't stop the way something inside me had shifted. I started waiting for his footsteps. The sound of the front door opening. The way he always said, "Hey, I'm back," like this house actually mattered to him. Like I mattered. I found myself listening for his laugh in the hallway. Looking at the clock around the time he usually came home from the gym. Fixing 2 cups of tea in the evening when I used to only make 1. Not asking him to sit with me, but silently hoping he would. And most nights, he did. I told myself I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was still loyal. Still faithful. Still married. Still invisible. And I started dressing differently. Subtle at first. A little mascara. A shirt that fit just a little tighter. Perfume I hadn't worn in years. Just for me, I said. To feel good in my own skin again. But I was lying. I was dressing for the possibility that he might notice. And when he did, when his eyes lingered for just a second too long, something deep in me fluttered awake. It wasn't love. I knew that. I wasn't in love with Liam. But I was starving. And he was the only one offering anything that felt like kindness. Mark didn't notice. Didn't see the shift. Didn't see me, period. He came home late. Ate in silence. Slept with his back to me. Always tired. Always distracted. And I stopped trying to reach for someone who didn't even remember what reaching back felt like. So I started journaling again. Filling pages with thoughts I couldn't say out loud. Lines like, "He asked me how my day was." Just that. And I almost cried. And what does it say about me that I feel more alive when he's near? And the one I kept writing over and over. Where did I go? When did I vanish? Liam never crossed a line. He never said or did anything that could be called inappropriate. But that didn't change the way I began to feel. And feelings don't care about rules. They grow in silence. In attention. In kindness. And I hated myself for it. For looking forward to our small talks. For replaying his smiles in my head. For wishing. Something I knew I had no right to wish. Because once you feel seen again, even for a moment, it becomes almost impossible to go back to being invisible. It started with breakfast. I came downstairs one morning, limping slightly, still nursing that ankle. And there he was standing in the kitchen, shirt a little wrinkled, hair a mess, and a slice of burnt toast in his hand. He looked up, grinned, and said, "I tried." I really did. The toast was black on one side, barely warm on the other. I laughed, really laughed, for the first time in what felt like months. And something about the way he looked at me in that moment, like my laugh was the best sound he'd heard all week, made my heart thud in a way it hadn't in years. We sat at the counter with our ruined breakfast, joking about our lack of cooking skills. And then he asked me something no one had asked in a long time. What were you like at my age? I blinked. No one ever asked me about before. Before marriage. Before the kids. Before the quiet crept in. And I started talking. About college. About music I used to love. About writing poems in cheap notebooks and sneaking into concerts. He listened. Really listened. And in his eyes, I saw something I hadn't seen in so long. Wonder. That night became the first of many. Late-night conversations in the dim light of the living room. Me curled up with tea, him stretched across the couch, legs too long to fit properly. We talked about everything. Dreams. Fears. Family. He told me how hard it was, growing up feeling like a visitor in his own father's life. And I told him what it's like to live with someone who stopped choosing you. Sometimes we didn't talk at all. Just sat there, comfortable in the silence. Safe. But nothing about it was really safe. Because every night, the space between us got smaller. Not physically. Emotionally. Intimately. It all blurred one night. I woke from a dream, cold sweat, heart pounding. I don't even remember what it was about. Just that it left me shaken, alone in that big bed with Mark snoring beside me, turned away like always. I didn't cry loudly. But I guess Liam heard. He knocked once. Soft. Are you okay? I didn't answer. Not with words. But something in me needed not to be alone. He stepped in, didn't turn on the light. Just walked to the edge of the bed and sat down. He didn't ask questions. Didn't try to fix anything. He just sat. And after a long silence, he reached for my hand. Held it gently. Like it was the most natural thing in the world. Like I wasn't married. Like he wasn't Mark's son. Like none of the lines mattered, just the pain sitting between us. And I should have pulled away. But I didn't. His thumb brushed against mine, and I didn't pull away. It was raining that night, the kind of rain that fills the whole house with sound. Soft at first, then heavier, constant, like it was trying to wash something clean. Mark had left earlier that day. Another business trip. He kissed the air near my cheek, said, "Don't wait up," and walked out the door like he always did, like there was nothing to miss. Like I was just furniture that folded his clothes and packed his snacks. By evening, the wind picked up. The lights flickered once, twice, then went out completely. I found a few candles and set them in the living room. The flickering made the walls look warmer, softer. The silence wrapped around me like a blanket. And then I heard Liam's footsteps. He walked in holding a half-eaten apple and a deck of cards. Smiled like it was the most normal thing in the world. "Wanna lose at blackjack?" He teased. We sat on the floor. Just us. The storm outside. The glow of candlelight between us. We played. We laughed. The kind of laughter that slips out when your guard is down. The kind that feels like medicine. And somewhere in between the second game and the third, he looked at me, really looked at me, and said, "You deserve better than this." I froze. The room stopped. Even the rain, for a second, sounded distant. I laughed. Reflex. Not because it was funny, but because no one had ever said that to me. Not even me. And then I cried. Not loud, but enough. He didn't flinch. Didn't look away. He just moved a little closer. I should have stopped it. I should have looked away. But I didn't, because in that moment, I wasn't his stepmother. And he wasn't my husband's son. We were just Two broken people trying to feel whole. He reached out slowly. Paused, giving me space to say no. I didn't. Our lips met in the middle. Not rushed. Not wild. Just aching, searching, asking questions we didn't dare say aloud. It wasn't about sex. It wasn't about revenge. It was about being chosen, even just for a moment. When we finally pulled apart, the silence was heavier than it had ever been. He whispered, "I'm sorry." And I said nothing, not because I didn't have words, but because I didn't trust the ones I had. Didn't know if they would come out as regret or relief. The next morning, the house felt colder. Not because of the weather, but because of the space that had suddenly grown between us. I heard his door open early. Too early. His footsteps were quieter than usual, like he didn't want to be heard. He didn't come into the kitchen. Didn't say good morning. Didn't even look my way when he passed through the hallway. And I didn't know what to say. What do you say after something like that? After a kiss that wasn't just a kiss, but a crossing? A confession? A mistake you almost needed to make just to feel alive again? We didn't talk about it. We didn't talk at all. I made coffee. Poured 2 mugs out of habit. Left one on the counter for him, even though I knew he wouldn't take it. He walked past it like it wasn't there. Grabbed his keys. Said quietly, "I think I'm gonna head back to school today." No explanation. No eye contact. Just that. I nodded. Because what else could I do? Beg him to stay? Ask him what it meant? Ask myself? He left with a duffel bag and a look I couldn't read. Guilt? Regret? Confusion? Maybe all 3. Maybe the same things I was carrying in my chest. And then, Mark came home. Hours later. Smelled like hotel shampoo and stale cologne. Dropped his suitcase in the hallway and walked straight into the kitchen. He kissed my forehead like I was a lamp. Said, "Got the promotion." Smiled like he expected a cake and balloons. I smiled back. Nodded. Said, "That's great." He didn't notice the extra mug still sitting there. Didn't ask why Liam was gone. Didn't ask me how I was. And I just stood there. In that perfect suburban kitchen, smiling, while silently falling apart. I thought the kiss would be the hardest part. I was wrong. It was the silence after that nearly destroyed me. The days after Liam left stretched out like silence wrapped in fabric, soft, suffocating, endless. Mark moved around me like nothing had changed, because for him, nothing had. He got his promotion. His son went back to school. His wife stayed. His life continued neatly, predictably, intact. But mine was unraveling. Not because of Liam. Not because of the kiss. But because of what it uncovered. I started waking up in the middle of the night, heart racing, the sound of the rain that night echoing in my head. Sometimes I'd sit in the dark living room, gripping a blanket like it might hold me together. Sometimes I'd open my journal and just stare at the page. I didn't know how to write the truth. Not yet. It wasn't guilt that ate at me. It was recognition. The painful, honest realization that I had been sleepwalking through my own life. And, for one moment, Liam shook me awake. I knew I had to talk to someone. Someone who